वेलकम टू वी लर्न में आपका स्वागत है। Topics to be covered are types of innovation, diffusion of process, factors affecting the diffusion of innovation, the adoption process, time factor in diffusion process, culture, communication and diffusion। जब हम बात कर रहे हैं इनोवेशन की, तो innovation basically is the way of transforming the resources of an enterprise through the creativity of people into new resources and wealth. So basically it means whatever available resources we have, जितने भी हमारे पास अभी resources हैं, उनका हम क्या creative use करें और क्या नया use करें, so that हमारे पास और ज़्यादा wealth आ जाए और ज़्यादा वैल्यू एडिशन आ जाए। अब जब हम इनोवेशन की बात कर रहे हैं, बेसिकली देयर आर 4 टाइप्स ऑफ इनोवेशन। द फर्स्ट वन इज़ continuous innovation, the second one is dynamically continuous innovation, the third one is discontinuous innovation and the fourth one is functional innovation। जब हम कंटिन्यूस इनोवेशन की बात करते हैं, तो इसमें हम एक कंटिन्यूस बेसिस पे प्रोडक्ट ऑल्ट्रेशन करते हैं फ्रॉम मार्केटिंग पर्सपेक्टिव। सो दिस इज़ वन सच टाइप ऑफ इनोवेशन विच हैज़ अ limited influence on consumption behavior of consumers. So because the product alteration is done on a very continuous basis, and here there are minor changes in the behavior that are adopted and thus which are unimportant to the customers. So whenever there are new products that are introduced in the market, new line of products, they are basically called as continuous innovation. When we talk of dynamically continuous innovation, it is one that affects consumers' consumption behavior in a pronounced way. When we say in a pronounced way, in a major way, in a drastically important way. Here the adoption requires a moderate change in the important behavior or a major change in an area of behavior that is of low or moderate importance to an individual. And when we talk of discontinuous innovation, this kind of an innovation represents a product so new to the customer that they have never known anything like it before. Well, it's a new kind of an innovation, totally new product, right? एक होता है functional innovation. They are those kind of innovations which provide functional performance benefits to consumers over existing alternatives, right? Whenever there are technological advances they offer to the customers, in case of downloading image from the internet, it's a functional advantage. It's a functional innovation. The internet is already there. We can access the data. We can see the data. But when we are given an opportunity to download it and save it, and when we are given an opportunity to do a video conferencing through a cellular phone, then what happens? It becomes an innovation. It becomes a functional innovation. All right. So, and as far as the breadth of innovation is considered, breadth क्या है of innovation? कि हम एक पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट इनोवेशन को, एक प्रोडक्ट को हम किस किस और मल्टीपल यूजेस में कर सकते हैं। एक प्रोडक्ट का एक ही यूज़ है बेसिक, लेकिन इनोवेशन क्या है उसमें कि एक प्रोडक्ट को हम टू ऑल विच एरियाज वी कैन यूज़। फॉर एग्जांपल अगर हम टेफ्लॉन की बात करते हैं, तो टेफ्लॉन जो ओरिजिनली बनाया गया था, इट वाज डिज़ाइन टू प्रिवेंट थिंग्स फ्रॉम स्टिकिंग टू कुकवेयर। टेफ्लॉन कोटिंग होती है, राइट? बट सब्सिक्वेंटली क्या हुआ, दैट थिन टेप्स वर यूज्ड। दे वर स्टार्टेड टू यूज थिन टेप्स जो हम प्लम्बिंग के लिए यूज़ करते हैं, लीकेजेस अवॉइड करने के लिए। एंड नाउ अडेज टेफ्लॉन इज मोर एंड मोर यूज्ड इन मेंस वेयर। एक ये एग्जाम्पल है। दूसरा एग्जाम्पल है बेकिंग सोडा का। तो बेकिंग सोडा का प्राइमरी फंक्शन क्या था? इट इज़ यूज्ड एज अ बेकिंग इंग्रेडिएंट, बट इसका जो ब्रेथ अगर हम इंक्रीज कर देते हैं तो इट इज़ ऑल्सो यूज्ड एज अ टूथ पॉलिशर, इट कैन बी यूज्ड एज अ कारपेट डिओडराइजर एंड अ रेफ्रिजरेटर डिओडराइजर, राइट? सो दिस इज नोन एज ब्रेथ ऑफ इनोवेशन, राइट? अब जब हम डिफ्यूजन की बात करते हैं, डिफ्यूजन प्रोसेस ऐसा प्रोसेस है बाय विच एन इनोवेशन इज कम्युनिकेटेड थ्रू सर्टन चैनल्स ओवर टाइम अमंग द मेंबर्स ऑफ अ सोशल सिस्टम। एक इनोवेशन तो हमने मार्केट में इंट्रोड्यूस कर दी, बट उसको डिफ्यूज़ करना है। डिफ्यूज़ मतलब उसको स्प्रेड करना है, उसको कम्युनिकेट करना है। कोई भी चैनल हम यूज़ कर सकते हैं फॉर कम्युनिकेशन, राइट? सो दैट all the members in the social system or whoever the targeted members are there, the message reaches them. अब जब हम diffusion process की बात करते हैं, it is the manner in which innovation spread over time to other consumer through communication across market, not just to an existing or a singular market, but across markets अगर हम वो communication को spread कर रहे हैं तो वो डिफ्यूजन प्रोसेस बन जाता है, ठीक है? द डिफ्यूजन प्रोसेस ऑल्सो आइडेंटिफाइज इनोवेटर इन द इंट्रोडक्टरी फेज ऑफ लाइफ साइकिल. देर आर अर्ली अडॉप्टर्स ड्यूरिंग द ग्रोथ पीरियड. द अर्ली majority and the late majority adopts the products in its maturity period, and laggards, they are the last one to adopt the product, right? Now there are number of factors that affect the diffusion of innovation. तो जो पहला फैक्टर है वो है टाइप ऑफ टारगेट ग्रुप. अब टारगेट ग्रुप क्या है? बेसिकली द टारगेट मार्केट फॉर द न्यू प्रोडक्ट becomes an important factor and influence the rate of diffusion. जितने भी यंग हैं, जितने भी एफ्लुएंट highly educated group hai, they have the tendency of accepting any kind of new product rapidly, readily, as compared to people who are not so high in their income earning capacity, and those who are not affluent, those who have gone into their matured age, तो उनकी टेंडेंसी कम हो जाती है नए प्रोडक्ट्स को अडॉप्ट करने के लिए, isn't it? दूसरा फैक्टर जो है नंबर ऑफ पीपल इन्वॉल्व इन डिसीजन मेकिंग. मतलब क्या वो डिसीजन, परचेज डिसीजन, इनोवेशन एक्सेप्टेंस डिसीजन जो भी है, वो क्या एक इंडिविजुअल ले रहा है या फिर कोई एक ग्रुप ले रहा है, ठीक है? अगर इफ देर आर फ्यूअर पीपल इन्वॉल्व इन डिसीजन मेकिंग, राइट, डिसीजन रिलेटेड टू परचेज, तो इनोवेशन इज लाइकली टू स्प्रेड मोर रैपिडली क्योंकि वो इंडिविजुअल है. बट वेयर देर आर मोर देन 1, 2 और मोर पीपल इन्वॉल्व, तो वो डिसीजन जो है वो थोड़ा लेट हो जाता है, उसमें स्लो डाउन हो जाता है वो प्रोसेस. एक तीसरा फैक्टर और है एक्सटेंट ऑफ मार्केटिंग एफर्ट्स इन्वॉल्व. इट ऑल्सो प्लेज अ सिग्निफिकेंट इन्फ्लुएंस बाय द एक्सटेंट ऑफ मार्केटिंग. वाई? howsoever an innovation is so great, wonderful, but unless sufficient numbers are informed, sufficient number and sufficient number of people are involved, right, and convinced to the extent that they could be functionally upgraded, the till these efforts are made by the marketer, the diffusion would be adversely affected, the innovation would not be accepted. So we have to take in mind that the marketer also, his efforts are also very important in diffusing. If he doesn't target the right number of people, the right market, the right channel, then the diffusion becomes and goes haywire. It does not reach the target audience. Right? एक हमारा फैक्टर है नीड फुलफिलमेंट. The more involving and obvious the need that the innovation satisfies, the faster would be the diffusion. The rate of diffusion of anti-dandruff, shampoos have been fast as they gain rapid trial among those who are uncomfortable with dandruff. If people are given chances to try, then the acceptance of diffusion becomes more rapid. Another and the last factor, another factor is compatibility. What compatibility means here? It refers to the degree to which the innovation is consistent with the individuals and group need. अगर कोई हमने ऐसा ही इनोवेट कर दिया प्रोडक्ट जो हमारी नीड्स के साथ कंपैटिबल ही नहीं है, ठीक है, हमारे एटीट्यूड्स के साथ कंपैटिबल नहीं है, हमारे पास्ट एक्सपीरियंस के साथ कंपैटिबल नहीं है, then it is inconsistent, right? So the more there is consistency, the more there is compatibility with the innovation and the individuals or group needs, the faster would be the diffusion. एक होता है relative advantage. अब टर्म relative और absolute होता है, तो relative का क्या मतलब है? Here, if a consumer perceives an innovation as better in meeting their relevant need compared to the existing ones, right? There is a product, in relation to that existing product, how well that innovated product satisfies and how relevant they are in doing the job. So relative advantage की जब बात आती है तब ये बहुत हो जाता है. While considering the relative product advantage, consumers consider both the cost and the performance. It is not just one. Consumer consider both the cost and the performance, right? The innovation must have either the performance or the cost advantage over the existing alternative. So the consumer must get something, either a new product in terms of performance, or the new product is cheaper, then they would go in for the innovated product. एक है हमारा complexity. If for example an innovation is difficult to understand and it is difficult to use simultaneously, the diffusion would be slower. The product simplicity and ease thus becomes very important factors in speeding up the process of diffusion. Another factor that plays a major role in the diffusion of innovation is observability. It refers to the ease with which consumer can observe the positive effects of adopting an innovation. Right? The diffusion will be more rapid if the positive effects are more visible. जो दिखता है वही बिकता है. So the marketer needs to focus more on the positive so that the consumer sees the positive facts, right? Triability refers here to the degree to which a product can be tried before the actual adoption. Another is perceived risk. If there is a more risk associated with trying a new product, slower would be the diffusion process. So the risk in adopting an innovation can be financial, it can be physical, it can be social or performance, right? अब जब हम adoption process की बात कर रहे हैं, so adoption of an innovation requires that an individual or a group of consumers decide on buying a new product. So it is reasonable to view adoption as the first step in the diffusion process. The adoption of an innovation is likely to be a reasonably involving decision for most of those who are among the first to buy and can be represented by a hierarchy of effect model. Thus, when we talk about adoption process, it is basically a term used to describe extended decision making by consumer when a new product, service or idea is involved. When we consider the stages in the process, the first one becomes the awareness. Here the consumer becomes awareness, they recognize the need for the product. The second stage is acquiring knowledge. Herein the consumer acquires knowledge about the product and the consumer gets into the mode of information search. Consumers start collecting information about the product. The third stage comes brand evaluation. Here what happens brand evaluation में कि एक brand इस brand को in every aspect it is evaluated, it is compared with other brand. फिर fourth step आता है trial. Before the actual purchase of the product, the consumer likes to see it, likes to try it, तो वो trial में आ जाता है. फिर एक final step आता है, the consumer decides whether to adopt a product or not to adopt a product, and it is called as adoption. In this process of adoption, product trial is very important and is more important than in most of the other decisions, because perceived risks are likely to be much higher with the use of new product. Right? When we talk of post-purchase evaluation, it is likely to have important implications because of the expressed expenses involved or the complexity of many products and the rapid changes in technology. The outcome of consumers decision process can be adoption or rejection. जो हमने ट्रायल के बाद सोचा वो it could be either adoption or rejection. If the needs, if the wants, if the functional needs are satisfied, he will adopt the product. And if they are not satisfied, the product would not be adopted. Right? Now there are barriers to communication. The first one is value barriers. When you talk about value here, it means the monetary barriers. Right? It refers to a product's relative advantage compared with the substitute products. Right? तो मॉनेटरी बैरियर्स होते हैं कि अगर हमारा सब्सटीट्यूट प्रोडक्ट के प्राइसेस उसकी वैल्यू नए प्रोडक्ट से रिलेटिवली, हम रिलेशंस में बात करेंगे यहाँ पे, तो रिलेटिवली कम है तो वो नया प्रोडक्ट नहीं लेगा क्योंकि पुराने का वैल्यू कम है. दूसरा है यूसेज बैरियर्स. It results when an innovation is incompatible with the consumer long established practices. हमारी यूसेज का ही नहीं है प्रोडक्ट, हमारी प्रैक्टिस ही नहीं है कि हम इंटरनेट शॉपिंग करें. जब हम इंटरनेट मार्केटिंग आ रही है बट विद इन अ मार्केट इट इज़ नॉट एक्सेप्टेबल, वो तरीका ही नहीं है मार्केटिंग करने का, वो तरीका ही नहीं है शॉपिंग करने का, देन इट्स अ टोटल फेलियर. बहुत सारे कल्चर्स में ऐसा क्या होता है, बेसिकली इंडियन कल्चर्स में, कि दे वांट टू सी द सेलर, दे वांट टू सी द प्रोडक्ट इन पर्सन. राइट? तो वो एक बैरियर का फैक्ट काम करता है. एक होता है हमारा लास्ट बैरियर, क्या है? रिस्क बैरियर. तो जब हम रिस्क बैरियर की बात कर रहे हैं, इट इज़ कंसर्न बेसिकली विद व्हाट? फिजिकल, इकोनॉमिक, फंक्शनल और सोशल रिस्क ऑफ अडॉप्टिंग अ न्यू प्रोडक्ट. जहाँ पे भी इंटेंसिटी ऑफ रिस्क, द परसीव्ड इंटेंसिटी ऑफ रिस्क इज हाई and it is perceived to be high, the consumers are likely to wait and watch till such time that they are reasonably assured that there are no unusual risks associated with product adaptation. हम टाइम फैक्टर्स एंड डिफ्यूजन प्रोसेस की बात करते हैं तो देर आर इन टोटल 5 टाइप्स ऑफ कैटेगरीज ऑफ अडॉप्टर्स. तो जो पहली कैटेगरी है वो है इनोवेटर्स. Basically, innovators account for almost 2.5% of all those consumers who adopt a new product. तो अगर 100% में सिर्फ 2.5% innovators होते हैं, इनके क्या characteristics हैं? They are basically venturesome and risk taker. Right? What are the other characteristics? They are young, they are very educated, better educated would be the right term. They have higher incomes, they are cosmopolitans, and they are active outside of their community. They are also less reliant on group norms. They are more self-confident, make extensive use of commercial media. So these are the characteristics that define innovators. जब हम अर्ली अडॉप्टर्स की बात करते हैं, they account for total of 13.5% of the people who adopt the new product. 13.5% की category है, right? They are the kind of people, they admire technologically new product, and they are successful, they are well educated, they are somewhat younger in the among their peer groups, but they are the people who adopt the product in the early stages of its life cycle, not in the initial, right? They tend to be more reliant on group norms and values. They are oriented to the local community rather than the cosmopolitans, and they are willing to take only the calculated risk, right? They are also the one who uses commercial, professional, and interpersonal information sources, and they are likely to transmit word of mouth influence, right? अब जब हम बात करेंगे अर्ली majority की, they account for almost 34% of the total buying population. They look for innovation that offer incremental, predictable improvements of an existing technology, right? Incremental, whatever the product has, over and above that. So nothing new, over and above it. और जो predict कर सकते हैं improvements, they're interested only in that. They also adopt innovations earlier than most of the social group, but only after the innovation is viewed successfully. वो जल्दी ही अडॉप्ट कर लेंगे, बट वो तब तक करेंगे जब वो देख लेते हैं कि वो मार्केट में इनोवेशन सक्सेसफुल हो गई है कि नहीं हो गई है. दे आर द पीपल हु आर सोशली वेरी एक्टिव एंड समवट ओल्डर. दे आर लिटिल लेस एजुकेटेड and less socially mobile, and you will seldom find a leader among them because they themselves are led by the innovators and the early adopters, right? Again, the late majority also accounts for 34%. They are very conservative, wary of progress. They rely on tradition and generally involve adoption, innovation in response to group norms and social pressure, right? They tend to be the older, they below average income and education, and they have less social status. अब हम लगार्ड्स की बात करेंगे तो लगार्ड्स दे आर 16% ऑफ द अडॉप्टर्स. लाइक इनोवेटर्स, दे आर लीस्ट इंक्लाइंड टू rely on the group norms. Laggards are traditionally bound, tend to be dogmatic, and make decisions in terms of the past. By the time they adopt an innovation, it is old and has been superseded by something else. जब तक इनके पास इनोवेशन पहुंचती है, जब तक ये इनोवेशन को एक्सेप्ट करते हैं, तब तक एक नई इनोवेशन मार्केट में आ जाती है. अब अगर हम रेट ऑफ डिफ्यूजन की बात करें तो रेट ऑफ डिफ्यूजन रेफर्स to the cumulative level of adoption of an innovation over time among groups. There are 4 major reasons that explain why an innovation is adopted more quickly. The first one is that with the increase in household disposable income, new products are likely to be more affordable. The second one is rapid technological advances require quicker adoption cycle. The third is, as technology is becoming more standardized, it reduces consumers' risk perception associated with the adoption of new product. Last one is, information regarding innovation is communicated rapidly and is accessible to the consumers conveniently. Obviously, the more quickly consumer become aware and gain knowledge about a product through mass media and internet, the faster is communication to various groups. अब हम कल्चर एंड डिफ्यूजन ऑफ इनोवेशन की बात करते हैं तो पहला हमारा क्वेश्चन आता है लो कंटेक्स्ट कल्चर का. तो लो कंटेक्स्ट कल्चर्स आर दोज विच रिलाई primarily on verbal and written communication. in transmitting meaning. They place more value in individual initiative and rely more on mass media for communication. हाई कंटेक्स्ट कल्चर की बात अगर करें, दे रिलाई प्राइमरली ऑन नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन with little difference in norms, values, and socio-economic status among groups. Their emphasis on non-verbal communication means that such cultures will place more value on interpersonal contacts and association. In this case, अगर हम role of communication बात करते हैं, in the definition of diffusion process, communication is the key element that influences diffusion across market. If an information is not properly communicated among the social class, the diffusion tends to be lower, right? Consumer rely on marketers controlled mass media advertisement for information about new product introduction, right? So advertising campaigns are designed to create awareness among potential consumers and communicate relevant information. Word of mouth, right? Word to diffusion to occur across group, within and across group, right? So for diffusion to occur across group, positive word of mouth must start first within the group. All right. However, favorable word of mouth within just groups is not sufficient for diffusion to occur, but requires the spread of information across different groups. When we talk about groups, groups are classified as homophilous and heterophilous. Individuals within homophilous groups are likely to be similar and bound by stronger reference group ties, such as family and peers. As compared to heterophilous groups, they tend to be dissimilar and tied that hold them together are weak, such as work associated at higher or lower levels in any occasional contact. Now there are two exercises for you people. First is, what are the 5 categories of adopters classified by time of adoption? The second is, explain the adoption process and extended decision making. Thank you and have a nice day. Keep learning, we learning.